Hi everyone, back to the More YouTube channel. It's Chris back with my rant stroke thought of the day. And if you thought you were in for a quiet summer at Newcastle United, think again. It's all kicking off. We've had the new strip launch recently, the Adidas strip, which looks amazing. I can't believe some of it was filmed in North Shields. And where was I? What was I doing that day? I missed everything. I missed Isaac walking his dog and the lads in the King Street Social Club and everything. God damn it. But anyway, the strip launch has been fantastic, really well received. Everybody's buzzing about it. I know it's an expensive thing, probably a little bit too expensive for a lot of people's tastes, but you know what people will do if that is the case. But it's great to see the club in the limelight like that. It's going to bring commercial revenue in as well. But this whole PSR, FFP world has thrown up all kinds of crazy situations, and this one has caught my eye. It's doing the rounds. We've all seen it, and I want to give you my opinion on it. Now, I see both sides of this, and I can understand why people go one way or the other, but it's all about our wonder kid that was on loan last season at Feyenoord, Yankuba Minteh. We all know about him. We've all watched him. We all saw the highlights. He looks a brilliant player. He's rapid. He's got skill. He can score goals. He can assist. He's been absolutely sensational at the Eredivisie. But his old gaffer is heading to Liverpool to replace Jurgen Klopp on his slot. Another bald manager, everybody calls him, but I'm not going to say anything because it ain't long, to be fair for me. But this is caused a story to kick off and do the rounds, and it's from Luke Edwards. Now, listen, you know my opinion on Luke. You know, sometimes he's all right. I just think sometimes he plays a pantomime villain just to wind Newcastle fans up, and he quite enjoys it. He's a good journalist, I must say, but I'm not sure about this story, I must admit. I really hope it isn't true, but I kind of understand the reasons and the substance behind it. So the story goes is that apparently Newcastle are reluctantly listening to offers for the winger, Yankuba Minteh, because people are willing to pay up to 40 million quid for the young lad, 19. He's never kicked the ball for Newcastle yet. And apparently it's to help balance FFP and PSR to enable Newcastle to buy players, because we saw that story the other day. I did my rant about it. Sky posted a story, then deleted it because they're shitbags, about how some clubs have to sell to buy. Newcastle were one of those clubs. Now, there is two sides of this argument, okay? So I can see where you're all coming from, right? The first side of it is the kid's never kicked the ball for Newcastle, so we never know how good or bad he would be in the Premier League. You can get 40 million quid from, sell him to Liverpool, for example. He goes off to Liverpool and he might bob, might be shite. He might not do the job, right? And then you bank 40 million quid. That helps fund the summer transfer market. You keep a hold of the likes of a Bruno or Isaac. I don't think either of them going anyway in this equation, but I'm just kind of playing out the scenario. So I understand that reason. Now, the other side of the argument is kind of where I'm leaning more towards, to be honest with you. This lad is 19 years old and he looks fucking spectacular, right? He looks absolutely brilliant. And we bought him for 5 to 7 million quid. Now, if that ain't what PSR and FFP is supposed to be, I don't know what the fuck is. You go find this kid from a spurious league in European football. You spend £5 million on him. You loan him out to a bigger team in Europe, and he's fucking brilliant. People have been doing it with Brazilians for years, buying Neymars and Adrianos at 16-year-old and fobbing them off, you know, to some backwater Serie A team or Ligue 1 team, and then they turn out to be fucking Ballon d'Or winners. This is what people have been doing for years. So if this was a Dan Ashworth move, this is probably the only thing the fucker got right in his entire time at the club. So if you have a lad who you spend 5 to 7 million quid for, and he turns out to be as good as he is, then holy shit. You know, Mark's got the stats up here, which I'm going to pull up for you right now. But looking at Yankuba Minteh last season, yes, I know it was Eredivisie and it wasn't a Premier League, right? But 27 matches played, 10 goals, 5 assists, 4 Champions League games as well, and a goal in that one. In terms of his stats are sick, absolutely ridiculous. You know, he's in the 99th, 90th percentile for pretty much everything. For goals, for assists, he's up in the high 80s. Shot creation chances, he's in 96. Carries 99. And I've said it numerous times, we don't have many players that carry the ball at this football club. Joe Linton and Joe Willock are the first two that come to mind, and Anthony Gordon. But this kid is brilliant. Successful take-ons, 99th percentile. Yes, that might fall off a little bit because the Premier League has slightly better defenders. But the kid looks fucking incredible. Look at his blocks as well. He obviously tracks back, and his tackles as well. He's an Eddie Howe type of player. So this is the bit that I can't get my head around. So I understand the first side, and then I look at the second side, and I think to myself, are you going to sell this kid for 40 million quid and he goes to Liverpool and he ends up being one of the best players in the league at 19? You spent 5 to 7 million quid on him. Even if you keep him at Newcastle and he's just all right, you can still sell him next season and make profit on the player. But because he's not been at the club long enough, there's no profit to be had kind of in terms of the 100% profit. So you'll still have to pay percentages, I'm sure, to agents and his original club and all this other shit as well. So this thing for me, I'm not sure how honest and, you know, kind of solidified this whole thing is I think Onslaught clearly is saying, right, this kid's been sensational for me. Let's go buy him. Newcastle haven't even played him yet. You know, if they need to sell to buy, because that's what Sky have told you, because they've probably been fed that line by the crooked Premier League, then Liverpool are chancing their arm. But for me personally, you've got players like Miggy Almiron in the squad that you can sell him. Players like Callum Wilson, you can sell him. Listen, they've both been great for the football club, but one can't kick his own arse, and the other one is knackered all of the time. You know, there's other players we're going to get rid of a lot of deadwood. You know, Hendrick's already gone. Kendrick Lamar doesn't play for Newcastle. Hendrick has already gone. Fraser probably go to Southampton. Players like that, we'll get them off the wage bill. We've got the Adidas money's come in, the seller money's come into this kind of window of the FFP PSR scenario. I think selling Minteh right now would be a bit mental. I really do. I just think that they're going to have to bring him back in pre-season. They're going to have to look and see what he's all about. If the lad comes back in pre-season, Eddie Howe's not a fucking idiot, right? Eddie Howe should be saying to the club, I need to see this kid in pre-season before you do anything about this. If he comes in a pre-season and he's a £50 million winger, why are you going to go drop £50 million on Neto or £60 million on Elise when you've got a kid there who's £7 million who looks the real deal anyway and maybe has a higher ceiling than some of those players? You know, people are screaming for Mbembo from Brentford, who's a really good player, right? But maybe Minteh will be twice, thrice, 4 times the player Mbembo would be. So this is a real challenging situation for Newcastle United. And if we do have to sell Minteh for PSR and FFP, it just highlights yet again what an absolute steaming pile of shit that whole thing is. Because Chelsea have been doing this for fucking years, buying these players, loaning them out to people, and they bring them back in the first team equation with loads of experience at the benefits of others if they are any good. And then if they're not any good, they sell them in the bank to profit. You know, but Chelsea have filled their face with that. You know, if it was a chocolate cake, these bastards would be so fat they'd be driving a fucking mobility scooter down the supermarket aisle. That's what these fuckers have been doing. So all these people have enjoyed the trough before they've shut the fucking barrier. So the likes of Newcastle and Aston Villa and other people can't get a taste of that sweet, sweet fucking Premier League money, you know, that they've been able to take the piss out of for years. They just protect the Elite Six. Like I said in my last rant, it stinks of shit. If we have to sell Minteh to Liverpool for 40 million quid and they get a brilliant player who tears the league up next season, and we don't get a brilliant player because Wolves whack a Newcastle levy on Neto, you know, Palace whack a Newcastle levy on Elise, you know, Brentford whack a Newcastle tax on Mbembo. We end up paying more money. The books are going to be on the piss anyway. So I can see both sides of this argument. I'm leaning more towards the argument of keeping him because I think the kid is really, really good. And I think if he comes into the preseason, I think you light it up. I think Howell and Tyndall and them will be thinking, fucking hell, look at this player. And I think he could be a real superstar for Newcastle next season. But let us know in the comments below what you guys think about that. We always like to hear from you. Which way do you sit in this argument? Would you keep him or would you sell him, bank the money and use it to fund the summer transfer window? I'd like to hope we don't need to sell this kid to fund the transfer window. But the way the Premier League have got you in handcuffs, who the hell knows these days? But let us know what you guys think in the comments below. Subscribe if you can. Help us get to the 8,000 subs. We'd love to have you on board. Like the video, help the channel grow. It's all free content. If you want to give a bit back to the channel and be a member, you get early access to videos just like this. Click whichever option below suits you best. Have a cracking day, everybody. We'll be keeping an eye on this story and we'll see how it develops. See you later. Cheers.